Today's topic is going to be a really fun one. It is going to be about eating volume while in a calorie deficit. So, there's a couple of things about eating for volume. First of all, what is it? So, it doesn't mean that you could just sit and eat a whole entire large pizza to yourself in one sitting. That's not what volume eating is. It is a strategy to maximize the amount of food that you are eating while simultaneously still keeping your calorie intake as low as possible to stimulate that fat loss phase. Now, this works based on two different principles. Calories and the physical amount of food that you eat are not directly correlated. And what do I mean by this is a pound of broccoli is going to contain considerably less amount of calories than, say, a pound of French fries. They both weigh the same amount, same volume of food, but the calorie amount obviously is much, much different. The other concept behind that is that the human stomach can only hold so much food at one time. So when we prioritize foods that are lower in calorie, you'll have less space in your stomach to eat foods that are higher calorie foods when you think about it. So if you were to eat a cup of broccoli versus a cup of French fries, let's keep it really simple. The cup of French fries is going to have triple, quadruple the amount of calories that the cup of broccoli is going to have. But the broccoli is packed with fiber, nutrients, water. The actual volume of it is going to fill your stomach up and make you feel much, much fuller. And it's going to be half the amount of calories than the French fries, which is going to be conducive for your weight loss phase. So the obvious, most important reason for eating for volume is to have more food. I think there's a misconception that people think when you go into a calorie deficit, when you want to lose weight, you have to eat pigeon food. You have to eat these tiny, tiny little servings. Now, do you have to portion size? Absolutely. But there's ways around it. And so if you just think about the concept from a broad standpoint, you could eat smaller amounts of food, but still not lose weight. If you have a quarter pounder from McDonald's and you just eat the burger, it's not a ton of food, but it's very high calorie. And with that, without it being a high volume of food, it's going to be calorie dense, but it's going to go right through you. And a couple hours later, you're going to be hungry again. Versus eating for volume in a calorie deficit, you're focused on the actual food quality, what you're eating in bulk, filling that plate up. And not only is it physically going to make you more satisfied, but visually seeing a plate full of food, that eye-brain connection, it's going to give you those reward hits in your brain to say, I'm very, very satisfied after this meal. In my opinion, volume is one of the number one reasons why people adhere to diets, or it's one of the best ways to increase dietary adherence when you're in a calorie deficit, because the number one reason why people quit their diets is because they're hungry. Hunger is uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to feeling it. Now, there's a time and a place for feeling hunger. I think it serves a very good purpose, and you've heard me talk about it. I've made reels on it, honoring those hunger and fullness cues. But our brain's first reaction when it feels hunger is to fix it, because our old prehistoric brains, where we didn't have access to food all the time, when we started to get those hunger sensations, it was, you better go find food right now or you will starve to death and die. That's how our brains think. And it takes a lot of mental training to reverse that thought process. And one of the ways to do that is by eating for volume and preventing those hunger cues from being so frequent and from being so strong, and to really hold you over between those meals so you're not feeling so hungry so often. In addition to this, looking at the food quality when you get that volume, you are getting more nutrient dense foods. So you're getting vitamins, minerals. You're probably eating more foods that have more water in them. I'm using broccoli as an example just because it's simple, but think about it. It's got the vitamins, the minerals, it's got more water, it's got fiber. So not only are you going to be getting all these essential nutrients, but you're also going to poop better. You know, I was going to go there. I had to say it at least once. And you're going to be including high volume protein sources. And what I mean by high volume protein sources is pure protein sources that aren't loaded with a ton of fat. One I can think of off the top of my head is when you eat breakfast, eating, and this is just an example, egg whites versus sausage. If you build up enough egg whites to be comparable to the protein in the sausage, calorie for calorie, you're going to have a lot less calories out of the egg whites, but a lot more volume. So your stomach will fill up all the same versus eating sausage, but you'll have half the calorie amount because it's not going to have all of that fat in it. You still get the protein from it. So that's what I mean by high volume protein sources. So what are the high volume foods? I know everyone's probably thinking that already. Like, okay, tell me what to actually eat. There are a lot of foods, and I hate to break it to you, but they're not junk foods. There are some processed foods out there that can give you high volume. Like the ones I'm thinking of off the top of my head are like keto products. Say you're in a calorie deficit and you don't have a lot of carbs to spare, so you buy the keto bread, which has fiber in it. So you're like, oh, this is volume. But there's something to be said about, because it is a processed food and it's not the same as eating something like vegetables and fruits in volume, those can cause a lot of GI upset because you may inadvertently give yourself way too much fiber in one sitting and have the opposite effect: cramping, bloating, constipation, etc. So just being aware that there are other processed foods out there that are a little bit more fun, especially if you are doing the whole if it fits your macros, which is great because it accounts for adding in a variety of foods, not feeling like you have to restrict yourself, but also going back to our bodies will always function optimally when we have a majority whole unprocessed diet. So breaking it down, you've got different high volume vegetables, fruits, other carb sources, and proteins. A couple of different veggies, and I do have a list for this, you guys. If you comment in the comment section below, I will send it to you. You've got broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, green beans, mushrooms, turnips, cabbage, squash, things of that sort. Especially when you're using squash as your carb source, bro, you can eat like 6 ounces of squash in one sitting, which is hard to do because you're going to be really, really full. Same thing with fruits. My go-to for fruits is strawberries. You can eat a whole entire pint of strawberries for about 20-25 grams of carbs, which is a lot. To eat a whole entire pint of strawberries, and think about the water. Thinking about all the vitamins and minerals that you're going to get along with that. But these are volume foods. So strawberries, watermelon, any berries really, grapefruit, oranges, peaches, blueberries, which I said berries already. Other carb sources that are going to give you, bump up that volume and really help you feel satisfied between meals. Lentils, popcorn, high fiber tortillas, or the low carb tortillas, which is like a borderline. It's kind of processed, kind of not. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, peas. Peas are a great carb source and they actually have protein in them as well. I think that's one that gets overlooked. And as far as protein sources go, I've already told you guys, egg whites, non-fat Greek yogurt is a really good one. I eat that almost every single day. Non-fat cottage cheese, lean ground turkey, super lean ground beef, obviously boneless, skinless chicken breast, which I'm sure you guys are always aware of. And just start combining those and balancing in between other foods, but knowing that you could fill up half your plate with veggies. You could aesthetically have a full plate of food, and just seeing a whole plate of food, even if it is healthier foods, you're going to be more satisfied after that meal, and you are much more likely to stick to your calorie deficit. So if you are interested in the list, the high volume list that I've made, put it in the comments below. Otherwise, let me know if you found this helpful. I want to keep giving you guys the value that you want and teaching you things that you need to be successful in your health journey. So if you're watching this and you found it helpful, please put it in the comments below, and I will see you guys here next week.